Hi folks. Today is interesting for me. I've been following this group for quite a while, and it's a pleasure to be able to actually come up and stand and talk to you all. Hopefully you're going to enjoy this and invite me back again. To introduce myself, my name is Simon May, and I'm an evangelist for Microsoft, and that's a really weird job title that gets me stuck at airports a lot. Essentially, my job is to go out and explain to people like yourselves what Microsoft means in the cloud, what we do, what all that stuff is. Thankfully, though, today I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to follow on from Justin's presentation just then around what the cloud means to IT, how it's changing, how IT is changing, and what it's going to be like in the future. And we're going to do that through looking at IT organisations today, and then looking at some of the big, what I like to call megatrends that are changing the IT organisation. And then we're going to have a look at what the impacts of those are. And then we're also going to get out a big crystal ball and start to think even further ahead about what else is going to change, how things are going to get even scarier and even more exciting. Before we do, though, I need to work out how many people in the room I'm going to annoy with this presentation. So how many people are responsible for or work in an IT environment? Excellent. I'm going to get lynched. And the reason that I'm going to get lynched is I'm about to give you a very stereotypical view of IT. Loads of people in this room I actually doubt are in this category because you wouldn't be here if you were. But let's have a quick look at some of the ideas. So the IT organisation is these guys. It's these two blokes who are sat in a computer room doing stuff that the business doesn't really get to see. That's kind of it. That's what they do. They're there to provide some kind of IT function for the business. Let's have a think about that, though, in a little bit more of a set of personal terms. What does that mean? Who are the people that we interact with within IT on a daily basis? I have, by the way, done all of the next job roles that I'm about to insult very badly. The first one is the help desk guy. And he's often just sat there doing his help desky stuff. The next one is our desktop person. We'll call this person Gemma, call the first one Kevin. I'll probably forget the names. Then we've got some guys that do server stuff. And then finally, we've got probably what most of the people in this room are, some IT managers who are doing stuff. What do these conversations look like? As I say, very stereotypical this bit, but it's just to get us into the place to understand how things are at the moment. Hands up if that's the conversation that you have with your help desk guys on a regular basis when you call them. Lots of people logging calls. That's essentially what people see help desk guys as. They call them up and they get told that they're going to log it because we haven't always got these guys empowered to be able to do lots of stuff at first point of contact. We've also sent a lot of these guys to other countries and outsourced this role a lot. Stereotypical thing for the desktop people. Have you rebooted it? I mean, we all laugh, but actually it does fix most things, doesn't it? That whole thing is what people see IT people as. It's always been the problem. Whenever I go to a barbecue, have you rebooted the barbecue? It's just, you know, the fact that I can't cook on it doesn't matter. It's just the in-joke. That's what the desktop guys have become. And the server guys, well, you know, they're trying to develop stuff that helps the business, but everything has become 6 weeks. It takes 6 weeks. What do you want to do? I want to build a new marketing service. 6 weeks. We've got to go and buy the servers, buy the tin, install the hypervisor on there, get all the software installed, get the operating system up and running, then integrate it. Oh, we've got to do some change control stuff. So everything has become a 6-week thing. Not only that, we lock these guys away in a really cold room where they get a nice, cold, sweaty shiver on the go, and then expect them to be able to deliver really good stuff for the business. And then finally, for our IT manager, doesn't that feel like the kind of thing that actually would make it a lot easier? If you could just turn around and said, oh, I need a new PC. No, you turn around and go, here's a piece of paper instead. That's what it feels like is a lot easier for a lot of IT managers to do because they don't have everything at their disposal to be able to provide what the business wants. They get a request for a new PC. They want a nice, shiny machine with lots of silver on it and chrome and stuff, and saying, actually, you know what? We can't do that. We don't have the budget. Go and get a bit of paper and do it instead. IT uses this sign all the time at the moment. Stop. It's time to stop what we're doing. We need to stop, slow down. We've got to get control. We've got to be able to manage this in a certain way. And yet that doesn't quite fit with what we want to do. I never got into IT to be a blocker to business. It's never what I wanted to do. And I'm sure that everybody in this room feels that, actually, most people probably feel that they aren't a blocker to the business. If you ask the same people that they're working with in the business, do you slow things down? Do you become a blocker? Then they're actually probably saying yes. And there's probably a very good reason for that. Let's be frank. There's lots of good reasons why we need to slow the business down sometimes. To ensure things like we're putting manageable services in place. There's SLAs. We're able to make the service compliant. We're able to do everything that the business actually expects us to do, but they feel like we're slowing them down and stopping them. Things are beginning to change. I like to think of this as a door. For a long time, IT have been the people that open the door and let people through. We push the door open. We're pushing the technology onto people. So let's just think of a common example. We have this new piece of software. We'll say Excel. We want to push Excel out to everybody because it's much better than using a paper-based system. We're finding that technology for them and explaining it to them and getting them using it. However, as Justin's just demonstrated, things have changed. It's become pull. The business are asking IT to be able to do stuff now. They expect to be able to use certain things and work in certain ways. We expect to be able to connect our smartphones up to our email system. We expect to be able to go on and use internet banking. We expect to be able to use Facebook so that we can network with people. We expect to be able to go and use LinkedIn. We expect all of this stuff to be available to us, and if it's not, then we get really unhappy about it. Within organisations, all we're now seeing is that people want this stuff. They want to bring information in. They want to be able to do more. And why is that? Well, it's because they can go home and do it. It's because they are being educated en masse about IT. Everybody now knows more about IT than they did 20 years ago. If you think about it, 10, 15 years ago, if you were able to use Excel, you were considered to be a bit of a computer geek. Now that's just what everybody does. That's just the same thing that every person in the organisation is able to do. It's expected as the norm. So why is that important? Why is it big, and why is it going to change things? Well, this is a photograph that I took when I was at Warwick Castle recently. And I thought I'd just drop it in there because it's a nice photo. No, there's a genuine reason behind it. This is Warwick Castle's first electricity generator. They had this in place in the early 1800s. And they had an engineer there who just managed this generator and a whole bunch of other stuff, including some batteries. This generator provided the electricity for a sailboat that went down the river that Warwick Castle was just next to. It became a tourist attraction. It was neat because it was electricity. Nobody else had it. And this is kind of where we are at the moment with IT services. We've been providing and running these generators for people for a long time. And this is kind of the big thing that we all know that we're here for today, to talk about cloud. So the first of the big things that's changing the IT department is cloud. And this is a bit of an interesting way of describing cloud, especially when you consider that previous picture a moment ago. This is the Microsoft Cloud. It really is. These actually are our data centers. This is the one in Dublin, and this is the one in Chicago. That's the internal workings of the server. The projector's a bit low res, so you can't see it very well. So that's a whole bunch of servers. Somebody once did ask me what colour they were. They really are azure blue inside. And that's a bunch of servers in containers in the containerized data center, which is that one. That data center is the same size as 3 of the largest Tesco's in the UK. So if you think about the biggest Tesco's you've ever been in, and then you want to walk from one side to where the fizzy pop is on the other side, imagine doing that 3 times over. And then imagine that there's 3 people manning that data center. Because that's the truth. We have 3 people who run that data center. This data center is 3 times the size of that one. And why am I telling you about scale and size to do with the cloud? Well, that's the key thing. When you're consuming public cloud services, you get to use scale. You get to do things in massive, massive ways. That's going to change what happens. It's going to change the decision-making around where you place services. What else is there? What else do we have out there that's going to change the world? Consumerization. Touched on it before. It's the idea that you can use anything that you want to be able to achieve your business outcomes, in a nutshell. So if I want to be able to connect my laptop up to my corporate network, then I should be able to. And we're going to see much more demand from that. We're going to see demand from people wanting to be able to take in any device and use it on their corporate network. And why not? There's some great business advantages for this for people. If you allow anybody to use their own laptop, taking the control issues aside for one moment, then potentially you don't have to buy that laptop. Potentially the company is saving money by doing that. Some people will like that approach, some people will absolutely hate it. But we may end up in a situation whereby perhaps it's very similar to a car allowance. We give people a technology allowance, and then you go and buy the kit that you want to be able to use. I have a sneaking suspicion from the early adopters of this, which tend to be very small organisations, that what we'll see with consumerisation is that people will start to save their own money. So if you give somebody a budget of £500 to go and buy themselves a laptop or a slate or whatever it is that they want to be able to use to get the job done, they'll probably spend slightly less on that than you would because they're going to want to save as much as they can. Or they'll go the opposite way and they'll spend a bit more. You give them £500 and they'll want a laptop that's worth $750. So they'll go and spend a little bit more and get a little bit more kit out of their own pocket. Changes the dynamics of the way that an IT organisation works. And that changing of the dynamic is something that we have to develop ways of understanding and working with. Within a desktop or a slate environment or any kind of peripherals, any kind of digital devices that you want to bring in, there's lots of ways of working with them to actually allow you to connect them up in safe and meaningful ways. If you don't want to allow certain devices that are unencrypted to receive certain bits of data, maybe you don't want to have legal conversations, you don't want your legal department having a conversation with somebody who's only using a particular unencrypted device, you can stop it. That's one of the key things that's going to happen. The idea of hybrid as well. Some people believe this exists. Some people believe it's hype. I tend to think that this is the most realistic approach that we're going to see to cloud for the next 10, probably even a little bit longer, years. And the reason is because you can take the best of both worlds. If you need something that has massive scale, then great, go and place it into the public cloud. If you've got a little bit of worry about where that data can be stored, fine. Keep the data within your own data center or within a data center where you can ensure that it's up to the same level of compliance and responsibility that you need to make sure. Concentrate on keeping the two connected because that's going to give you the best advantages. Why try and expensively recreate a public cloud in your own data center when you can just go and outsource it and use it from a public cloud provider? We're going to see lots of growth in this area, I think. And it's, for me, probably one of the most exciting technology areas that we're going to get into in the next 10 years because it's going to be so key to everybody's skill set. So there we go. The 3 trends that I think are going to really push the IT department and change it. We've got cloud, which is allowing us to do massive scale very quickly. We've got consumerization, which is changing the way that we consume the information that we need to access as a business. And we've got the hybrid approach, which is allowing us to take the best of all worlds, mix and match them as we need to deliver what our business needs us to get to. How do we think that's going to affect the future of IT? It's going to change everybody's job role. Every single person within IT is going to feel the impact. Some people are going to feel it really, really hard. Some people will end up in a situation where they're going to have to retrain. And notice that I didn't say they're going to lose their job. I said they're going to have to retrain. Every single person in IT got into IT because it changes. We've had a period of about 10 years of really good stability. If you like, a perfect storm of stability. We've had the major bits of technology that people wanted to deploy. Good desktop operating systems, good management of identity. All that stuff has been out there and in market for about 10 years now, and lots of people are still stuck with it. However, the downside to that is that we've got this group of people who have become very risk averse. The business has actually been asking them to prevent issues with the business. It's actually been saying, make sure this infrastructure is reliable. It's there all the time. Don't change it. So they've forgotten how to change. So there's a big skills thing there. They're going to have to retrain themselves. Let's take a look at the 4 people who we had a look at earlier. And you'll notice that they've actually all changed ever so slightly. First up, our help desk guy. Our help desk guy has got a couple of key things in the picture. One, you can now see his laptop. He is just using a unified communication solution, which includes video. If somebody needs some help from him, they can just start a video conversation with him. That might sound really trivial, but it gives you a personal contact, a much more personal contact than just a chat over the phone. We've got our desktop guy who's now having a conversation with somebody. And we've got our server guy who's, well, he's changed quite a lot. By the way, all of these photographs are part of our stock images collection at Microsoft. They're actually all people who I work with. Somewhere in Seattle is this guy walking around campus in his cowboy hat. And then we've got our IT manager. Conversations have changed completely. Our help desk guy knows the people that he talks to. He understands them. He understands what they're trying to achieve with their business. And that's one of the big key skills, getting our IT people back close to the business, really being a part of the business thinking. Our desktop guy has become used to connecting in lots of different devices. He's now not concentrating on helping somebody use Excel or Word or something else. He's actually concentrating on making people's kit connect to the systems that they need to connect to. And our server guy, I like to call this guy the cloud cowboy. Not because he's doing things in a shoddy way, but because he's out there corralling stuff together and getting it all to work. He's thinking in different terms. He's not just thinking about plugging in some technology. He's thinking about controlling the costs of the cloud. Because if you think about it, we provide the idea of cloud as a service, a utility you can use all the time. Well, what happens if you leave the tap running with your water at home? You get a massive water bill eventually. So we need to have some sort of intelligent control that understands the business and understands the technology. That's what our server guys, our cloud cowboys, are going to be doing. And it's very much the same for the IT managers. They're having a much more business manager relationship with their businesses. In the past, we've picked some certain people to do that BM relationship. They may or may not have been great at it. I think the skill set for IT managers is going to change into one in which you're able to guide people to make decisions rather than saying yes or no. I saw an interesting thing on CIO Co UK yesterday about how about 5% of CIOs in the UK are actually allowed to sign off budget. That's an interesting thing because I think that'll actually change and we'll start to see less CIOs and managers being allowed to make direct purchasing decisions themselves, and that will return to the business who make the decision about the money spent. So what does it do? Well, the changes are that we provide guidance to give better solutions. Essentially, what we're trying to do is always deliver something that's good for the business. IT is going to rejoin the business. It's going to become a first-class citizen again. None of us want to be at a barbecue being told to reboot the barbecue. We want to be in a much better place than that. For me, though, one of the critical things here is that IT is going to become much more open about the way we do things. We're going to allow people to bring in their own stuff. We're going to allow them to connect their own devices. We're going to allow them to do all sorts. We're going to allow them to do what this fella's been doing all the way through, and that's going out and washing his pants at the same time as being able to do his email and satisfy his job requirements. It's going to be a fun and exciting world for our IT guys. IT professionals are going to change. They're going to reclaim some of the fun of their role. It used to be exciting. You used to be out there doing new stuff all the time and breaking new ground. We're going to get to see that again. These big changes are the kinds of things we haven't seen for a few years, so it's going to be much more exciting. I haven't really talked about why the business is going to do this, why the business wants IT to change. It's all about agility. Cost saving from the cloud and from other solutions is kind of by the by. It's great. We're going to save money. Excellent. It's going to allow us to do things in whole new ways. It's going to allow a very small organisation to be very big. They have a new product, they can go and market it globally, instantly. And their IT guys are just going to be able to hook up the bits to allow them to do that. Conversely, the other side of the organisation, the other side of the spectrum, large organisations, they're going to be able to enter new markets with massive levels of agility. If you're a huge multinational at the moment and you have a new product and you're not sure whether it's going to work or not, you're going to have to sink loads of money into setting things up and making it a marketable product. Now, with cloud, well, you can just turn it on. You can ask your IT guys to provision it, and a couple of hours later, it can be up. You can be executing in a new market. So you've got that sort of upward agility from the small organisations and the downward agility from large organisations, and what that means is that everybody gets to compete on a more level playing field. Everybody on the same playing field also means that if you aren't agile, if you aren't taking advantage of this technology, you're going to be in a very bad place. So where can we go next? Well, I think the next idea is, where can IT go? And I think, particularly we'll start to see this in small organisations first, I think we're going to start to see devolution of the IT department. We're going to see a virtual IT department start to appear. That may mean that in a small organisation, one of your accountants actually happens to be awesome at using spreadsheets. So that person will become spreadsheet guru, and they'll start to explain and do strategy around spreadsheets. You might find a marketing person that's great about creating e-commerce websites, so they will become the web administrator. The other side of this VDEP thing in large organisations is that you're going to see people sitting in different places. So your desktop guys will be out sat on the trade floor with the traders in your bank. Your marketing guys will have an e-commerce person sat with them, working as part of the marketing team, and then all of these people get together on a regular basis to talk about the IT stuff, because actually they're business focused, not IT focused. The next stage, this is really going out there now, and this is where this stuff starts to really excite me. Has everybody heard of a trend called the Internet of Things? Okay, got one or two hands up. I love the idea of the Internet of Things. The idea is that everything will be connected and we'll be able to understand it. Now, it came out of the idea that everything would have an RFID tag, so we'll be able to digitally identify it. With the advent and the adoption of IPv6, it's moved up into a slightly different world where everything is internet connected. This number, it's a real number, 340 undecillion, which you can't really get into your head, is the number of available IPv6 addresses. That actually equates to 8 addresses for every square foot of Earth. It's a lot. It's nowhere near enough. This will mean that in the future, if you think about consumerization, your CEO is going to come in and say, hey, my cool new watch, it can do email. Look, connect it into my Exchange server. Or they're going to want something, anything connected in. Everything is going to have to be a part of your IT systems in some way. The only way we're going to be able to do that is if we can have the scale of the cloud to support us. So where I find the whole thing going and becoming much more exciting is that there's an inevitability here. We're going to have everything connected into the internet, and everything has to be understandable and manageable. I created these kind of 5 imperatives for any next generation IT department, because I think these are the things that you're going to have to live your life by if you want to survive and keep your job in IT. And the first one is the most important one for me. Be the guide, not the gatekeeper. Don't stop people using technology. That's not your job anymore. Your job is to allow people to use whatever technology it is that they want to use, but using the other bits to use it in a safe and meaningful way. There's a link to get all of these at the end, by the way, so I don't feel like you have to read the whole iBleed slide. This means, essentially, that people are going to be able to work in very different ways. The fact that the IT department is doing stuff in a different way doesn't really matter. It's the fact that the end users are going to be able to work in different ways. It's the fact that our end users are going to be able to wash their pants and do their email, or whatever it is that they need to be able to do. They're going to be out there and able to do all that stuff that we can't even think that they can, because we're just providing systems and methods for them to work in a way that actually allows them to do what they want to do. I think I've run over by a little bit, so I'm just going to throw that up there. Links to my blog, if you want to grab that and have a look. It's got lots and lots and lots of background information. There's a special post that was released about 2 minutes ago about all of the stuff that I've used to create the presentation. There's an online copy of the presentation on there as well, and links to lots of the stuff around all the Microsoft services that can help you achieve everything I've just said, and will actually get my salary paid at the end of the month. And with that, I'm going to leave the stage. So thank you very much.